T. Scott Jones joins us.
Hey, guys.
Counselor, how are you, sir?
Oh, fantastic. I was enjoying listening to Ron there. I mean, talk about going up there to Rupp, Big Blue Heaven, that's proud of my Vols.
Well, yeah, but between you and Ron, man, there's a guest lineup on this show like no other.
Well, I tell you what, he just sort of set the stage, and perhaps they won't listen too much to what I've got to say, but hopefully we give a little bit of knowledge.
Okay, I want some knowledge because I was texting you last night, and I was writing a column about how this whole NIL thing gets into a legal matter. So for those that maybe don't understand, they just realize it's going to court. What is Tennessee fighting for in this situation?
Well, I mean, obviously, the NCAA kind of threw down a gauntlet there, and we're sort of in this brave new world with NIL, and you start looking at the various decisions and what we're expected to know or not know about it. I personally don't think Tennessee did anything wrong. I think that the NCAA and what they are attempting to do is very, very oppressive under the circumstance. And I mean, we introduced this money in these NIL cooperatives in there so that these young men and women could receive some recompense for their participation as student athletes. And then we're just going to kind of, loosey-goosey, start changing the rules midstream. I mean, it's tough to play a game when you don't know the rules. And it's not knowing the rules because you're ignorant. It's because they don't exist. I mean, it's kind of the wild, wild west.
Yep. Agreed. Caleb?
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, it seems like there's two, we talked about this yesterday. There are two fronts Tennessee's fighting on. The university is fighting in the sense of what you were talking about. They're like, these rules, we didn't break any rules, and you guys are changing the rules on us. What are we supposed to do? But then the state of Tennessee and Virginia are fighting on a different front, which is to say, these rules are just straight up illegal, aren't they? Which is that it's a blatant violation of the Antitrust Act, isn't it? And is that, do you think they have
it is basically extracting the teeth out of the NCAA. I mean, for years and years and years, they were kind of the, for lack of a better term, dictator. And, if you wanted to basically play at that level and have your university participate in it, you didn't have any other choice. I mean, they were a monopoly. And so I think that's what you're seeing out of these lawsuits, because I think we're seeing sort of folks, and particularly states, sick and tired of being dictated to by the NCAA. And if it was something where they were being reasonable and saying, let's have a round table and let's put some rules in place or something of that nature, and we're going to grow and learn, it's just kind of like they're an oligarch. They're just kind of slapping the gavel and saying, hey, this is it. And, this is what we're going to do. So I think you're right, Caleb, as far as on two fronts, that, the state's saying, you just can't do this. And I mean, these individuals, when we gave the individual athletes the ability to contract with these NIL cooperatives, I mean, that contract is going to, in my legal opinion, trump the NCAA relative to those rules. I mean, there's certainly certain things that can't be done, which would be obvious. But as far as that contractual right that individual athlete has, that right, in my opinion, is going to be held, at a higher level than this NCAA just kind of unilateral, hey, we don't like what you did, so we're going to drop the hammer on you.
Let me ask you this. T. Scott Jones joining us with Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, play to win when it comes to personal injury or criminal defense will take care of you. I worked that in there.
Yeah, that was kind of good, I mean, my ego, did you see my head kind of swole a little bit?
That's right. Does age matter at all? And I think I know the answer to this. So if somebody's a savant at 14 years old, they can go be a professional piano player or that sort of thing. I mean, the fact that he's younger and he's not yet a college football player, he's a high school player, allegedly taking a private flight from California to Knoxville. Does that matter? The age part matter at all, do you think?
I think that's a little bit of a red herring, Dave, simply because, we've had, if you will, savants, athletes that are just tremendous at a young age for a long time. And so I don't think they ought to be treated any different. I mean, you kind of wonder where the NIL stops, i.e., we're talking about in college athletics, but I mean, kind of take it to the nth degree. I mean, are we going to see it evolve into high school sports? I mean, then is it going to be middle school sports where kids are getting contracts or something of that nature? But no, from the standpoint that I could see some protections being put in place simply because when someone's not the age of majority after the law changed at 18 in the United States, that something to preserve that money, but other than that, as far as the ability to contract, I don't think so.
Is it? Go ahead, Caleb. I got to follow up to this, but go ahead.
So speaking of that, we're talking about the players' rights and the Antitrust Act and things like that, but it's something that could be dangerous for the players. I want to ask, which is this. Is there really even any way for the NCAA to step in and say, we need to regulate these collectives? Because what happens if a collective locks an 18-year-old in for a really bad contract that, they have to pay them a certain amount of money, even after they go to the NFL? Is there any type of regulation that can happen on that? Or is it just, look, NIL, it is what it is, and you just got to be smart about it?
I think you might see some state legislation on that, when we see that type situation occur. And what I was talking about, when we have a youth, under age 18, technically they really don't have the ability to contract. So they're going to have a parent with a power of attorney or, a guardianship or something of that nature. I mean, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an evolution as we see kind of the rules come up. I mean, courts have long been want to not enforce contracts that are patently unfair, and especially when you're dealing with someone underage. But, two grown individuals, be it men or women, they negotiate, they sign a contract. I don't know that they wouldn't hold that as being enforceable unless it was just something patently illegal with regards to it, where you've got the amount of money being made off of the athlete and the compensation that they actually see at the end is so small, something of that nature. But I do think there's going to have to be some rules put in place. I just don't think the NCAA is the one to put the rules in place. Yeah.
You've hinted at this. I think it's the end of the NCAA if Tennessee wins.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it is one of those situations, and they're going to fight. They're going to fight tough because, I mean, reality of it is there's a ton of money, and folks fight when there's money involved. And in this particular situation, I think those contractual rights, as I mentioned earlier, they're going to trump sort of the omnipotent NCAA coming in there at the last minute and saying, hey, we don't like this flight. We don't like that.
Let me ask you this, and this is going to take a second to explain. So in 2022, I was visiting with Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, and nobody had asked him the time frame of when some of these rules might be put in place and implemented. And I said, well, what kind of time frame? He goes, well, Congress has the midterm elections to worry about now, and then they've got the actual election in 2024. And I'm like, whoa. So you're not talking about weeks or months. You're talking about years. So I have a problem with Eli Drinkwitz in Missouri being able to sit in the room and being part of a negotiation when you can't do that in other states and you can't in Tennessee. So could a conference like the SEC or Big Ten enforce a set of rules across the board, or does it ultimately have to come from the legal system?
I think it's going to have to come from the legal system. I mean, you can cooperatively agree to a set of rules, when you join the SEC. And if you want to bind your institution and agree to those rules, I think that those member universities could. I don't think they can be constricted as far as rules that are now coming up that were not in place when they joined the league. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, there are so many questions out there that, way more questions than there are answers. And I think we're going to gradually see it go where we get some clarity. But just like what you mentioned, we've got different states with different rules.
So I got a present for you. You want to see it?
Sure, absolutely.
All right, check this out. Caleb, you'll get one, but you're going to have to pay. All right. So
what? Okay.
can I make that a little bit bigger? Can you guys see that at all?
Well, I can see it's a shirt. Notice I haven't put my glasses on. It's
yeah. Oh, we got the shirt part.
State of Tennessee versus the NCAA. Absolutely.
Yes. Do you love that shirt, or do you?
I do.
That's
I mean, that was awesome. Yeah, play to win.
Like
I mean, you know what? I am proud of the state, and I am proud of our university for not sitting back and basically, being a limp dish rag and saying, you know what, NCAA, you're going to clean the floor with us. Oh, mercy us, mercy us. I don't think they did anything wrong. And I think they took the tact that I think is appropriate under the circumstances of just calling them out. And that's what happened. I mean, and, it may have been one of those situations that the NCAA didn't think that was going to happen, especially given our just recent history with the NCAA, in which basically we self-policed. I mean, I liked what Donde said when we talk about, Tennessee takes care of business. They'll report themselves if they've broken a rule or something of that nature. I mean, we don't need to have just rules randomly foisted upon us. And I'm proud of Tennessee for that.
Amen to that. We're proud of the relationship and very happy with the relationship we have with you. Thanks so much for your insight, even on legal matters on the show. And when I've got a question, I can reach out. If anybody has any issue with personal injury, criminal defense, they need to keep you in mind. Thank you so much for what you do with the show, and have a blessed weekend.
Take care, guys. See you, Caleb. See you, Dave.